Welcome back to another episode of Infidelity Tales Lab. We're thankful for your continued viewership. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing our global reach. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, The Return. Derek Morrison adjusted his tactical watch as the C-130 touched down at Dover Air Force Base. 6 months in the Afghan mountains had carved away the last remnants of softness from his already hardened frame. At 38, the Special Operations veteran carried himself with the lethal grace of a predator, his steel-gray eyes missing nothing as he surveyed the familiar landscape of Delaware. The mission had been classified, extracting a high-value asset from Taliban territory, but Derek's mind wasn't on the operation's success. For weeks, something had gnawed at him. The phone calls home had grown shorter, Brianna's voice more distant. His 16-year-old daughter Amy's texts had become cold, almost hostile. Even Luke, his 14-year-old son who idolized him, seemed different during their video calls. Derek's instincts, honed by 15 years in special operations, screamed that something was wrong. He'd learned to trust those instincts. They kept him alive through 3 deployments in Iraq and 2 in Afghanistan. As he walked through the terminal, Derek noticed the stairs. At 6'3", with shoulders that strained his uniform, he commanded attention. But more than his physical presence, it was the aura of controlled violence that made people step aside. His fellow operators called him the Wolf, not because he hunted in packs, but because once he marked prey, he never stopped stalking. Derek had met Brianna 12 years ago at a military charity gala in Virginia Beach. She was 24 then, a stunning brunette with emerald eyes and a smile that could disarm even him. Brianna had been working as a pharmaceutical sales rep, ambitious and driven. She pursued him relentlessly, claiming she'd always been attracted to military men. They married within 8 months. The early years had been good. Brianna seemed to thrive as a military wife, hosting gatherings for other spouses, organizing charity events. She'd given birth to Amy 2 years into their marriage, then Luke 2 years later. Derek had believed they were building something solid, something worth fighting for. But as Derek's career progressed and his deployments became more frequent, cracks began to appear. Brianna grew resentful of his absences, complained about raising the children alone. She'd started drinking wine earlier in the evenings, spending more time on social media, going out with friends Derek had never met. 3 years ago, Brianna had surprised him by suggesting they move to an upscale neighborhood in Wilmington. She'd inherited money from her aunt, she claimed, enough for a substantial down payment on an $800,000 house. Derek had been suspicious. Brianna's family wasn't wealthy, but she'd shown him the documentation. The inheritance story checked out. Now, as Derek climbed into his Ford Raptor in the airport parking garage, he wondered if he'd been played. His phone buzzed with a text from his unit commander. Package delivered. Enjoy your leave, Wolf. You've earned it. Derek started the engine and began the 40-minute drive home. He'd planned to surprise Brianna and the kids, arriving a day early from what they thought was a 2-week training exercise. The truth that he'd been in Afghanistan on a Black Ops mission was something his family could never know. As he drove through the tree-lined streets of their neighborhood, Derek's unease intensified. The houses here cost more than most people made in 5 years. Perfectly manicured lawns, luxury cars in every driveway, the scent of old money and newer pretensions. It was a far cry from the military base housing where they'd started their marriage. Derek pulled into his driveway at 3:47 p.m. Brianna's white BMW X5 was absent, unusual for a Tuesday afternoon. Through his training, Derek had developed an almost supernatural awareness of patterns and disruptions. The neighbor's dog, a German shepherd named Rex, didn't bark at his arrival. Rex always barked at strangers, but not at Derek. This meant someone else had been coming and going regularly, someone Rex now recognized. Instead of using his key, Derek decided to observe first. He moved around to the backyard with a silent precision that had made him legendary among his peers. The sliding door to the patio was unlocked, a security violation he'd discussed with Brianna multiple times. Derek's jaw tightened. Inside, the house felt different. Not just empty, but deliberately arranged. Brianna had always been particular about cleanliness, but this felt staged. No evidence of daily living. No coffee mugs in the sink. No magazines scattered on the counter. No shoes by the door. Derek moved through his own home like a ghost, photographing everything with his phone. In the master bedroom, he found what he was looking for. The bed was made, but Derek could see the indentations where two people had lain recently. On Brianna's nightstand, partially hidden beneath a jewelry box, was a receipt from a restaurant he'd never heard of, Romano's Bistro, dated 3 days ago. Dinner for two, $147. But it was the bathroom that confirmed his suspicions. A men's deodorant he didn't recognize sat on the counter. Old Spice Swagger, not the unscented antiperspirant Derek had used for years. In the shower, a bottle of men's shampoo nestled between Brianna's expensive products. Derek's phone buzzed. A text from Brianna, still at Amy's soccer practice. Home around 6. Luke's at Tyler's house for a sleepover. Love you, Tyler. Derek's blood chilled. Tyler Hoffman was their neighbor, a divorced real estate developer who'd moved in 18 months ago. Tall, tan, the kind of man who drove a Porsche and wore designer suits to grocery stores. Derek had disliked him instantly. Something about the way Tyler looked at Brianna, the way he always seemed to be outside when she was gardening, the way he'd offer to help with household repairs whenever Derek was deployed. Now Derek understood. Tyler's house was 4 doors down, with a perfect view of Derek's driveway. Tyler would know exactly when Derek left for deployments and when he returned. The perfect lookout for an affair. Derek sat in his kitchen, processing the betrayal with the cold calculation that had made him one of the military's most effective operators. Anger was a luxury he couldn't afford. Not yet. First, he needed intelligence. He needed to understand the full scope of the betrayal, identify all the players, and plan his response. He pulled out his laptop and began his reconnaissance. Tyler Hoffman, age 35, divorced for 3 years. His ex-wife, Linda, had received a substantial settlement after claiming emotional abuse. No criminal record, but Derek's contacts could dig deeper than public records. Tyler's real estate business, Hoffman Properties, specialized in luxury homes and commercial developments. On paper, he was successful, but Derek's trained eye noticed irregularities in the financial filings. The numbers didn't quite add up. Income seemed inflated, expenses oddly categorized. More importantly, Derek discovered that Tyler had been involved in Brianna's house purchase. He'd been the listing agent for 3 properties she'd supposedly looked at before finding their current home. The inheritance story began to unravel in Derek's mind. What if Tyler had helped manufacture the documentation? What if this entire neighborhood move had been orchestrated to bring Brianna closer to her lover? Derek's phone rang. Brianna, hey baby, I thought you weren't coming back until tomorrow. Change of plans, Derek said, his voice carefully neutral. Training ended early. Oh, well, I'm just finishing up some errands. Tyler offered to help me pick up Luke from his friend's house since you weren't going to be home. Isn't that sweet of him? Sweet. Derek's grip tightened on the phone. Very thoughtful. I should be home in about an hour. Amy's staying at Jessica's tonight. They have a project due tomorrow. So it'll just be us for dinner. I was thinking of ordering from that Italian place you like. Derek almost laughed. His wife was scrambling to keep their son away for the night, probably so she and Tyler could decide how to handle Derek's unexpected return. Sound perfect, he said. I'll be here. After hanging up, Derek made 2 phone calls. The first was to Master Sergeant Rodriguez, his former team leader who now worked in military intelligence. Ray, I need a favor. Deep background check on a Tyler Hoffman, Delaware resident. Everything you can find. How deep we talking, Wolf? Submarine deep. I think someone's been playing games with my family. You got it. Give me 48 hours. The second call was to his brother-in-law, Mike Chun, a cybersecurity expert who owed Derek several favors. Mike, I need you to clone a phone remotely. Can you walk me through it? Within 30 minutes, Derek had installed spyware on both Brianna's and Tyler's phones using techniques Mike had taught him. Every text, call, and location would now be tracked. Every photo, every email, every app interaction would be recorded and sent to a secure server Derek controlled. By the time Brianna arrived home at 6:30, Derek had transformed back into the loving husband. He greeted her with a kiss, helped her with groceries, asked about her day. But behind his warm smile, the wolf was hunting. Chapter 2. The Web Unravels. Derek woke at 0500 hours, as he had every day for the past 15 years. Beside him, Brianna slept peacefully, her dark hair spread across the pillow. She looked innocent in sleep, almost like the young woman he'd married. Almost. The phone monitoring had been active for 36 hours, and the results were devastating. Derek had read every message, listened to every call. The affair had been going on for 8 months, starting just 2 weeks after his last deployment. But worse than the sexual betrayal was the systematic poisoning of his children's minds. Tyler had convinced Brianna that Derek was psychologically damaged by combat, potentially dangerous to the family. He'd filled her head with stories about PTSD-driven domestic violence, military divorces that ended in tragedy. Brianna, in turn, had planted these seeds of fear in Amy and Luke. Derek read the message chain from the previous night. Brianna, he's home. What do we do? Tyler, stick to the plan. Act normal. I've got everything ready for when we make our move. Brianna, I'm scared. What if he finds out? Tyler, he won't. Military guys are too simple, too straightforward. He'll never see it coming. Derek's jaw had clenched at that last message. Too simple, too straightforward. He'd spent his career outthinking insurgents, terrorists, and enemy operatives. Tyler Hoffman was about to learn the difference between a soldier and a special operations veteran. Derek made coffee and began his morning intelligence review. His contact, Rodriguez, had delivered a preliminary report on Tyler. Born Tyler Kozlowski in Newark, New Jersey. Changed his name 12 years ago after a bankruptcy. His real estate license had been suspended twice for ethical violations. Most interesting, Tyler's divorce hadn't been due to irreconcilable differences. His ex-wife Linda had filed restraining orders citing threats and intimidation. Derek's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from another contact, Captain Sarah Kim, who now worked with the Army's Criminal Investigation Division. Wolf, that name you gave me flagged in our database. Call me. Secure line only. Derek stepped onto the back patio and dialed Sarah's number. Derek, your Tyler Hoffman has been on our radar for 2 years, Sarah said without preamble. We believe he's been targeting military wives during deployments, specifically those with access to sensitive information or valuable assets. What kind of targets? Wives of officers, special operations personnel, intelligence analysts. The pattern is always the same. He moves into neighborhoods with high military populations, identifies vulnerable targets, initiates affairs, then either extracts information or manipulates financial situations to his advantage. Derek felt the pieces clicking into place. How many wives? That we know of? 12 in the past 4 years. Delaware, Virginia, Maryland. He moves around, never stays in one area too long. Your wife isn't his first, Derek. She won't be his last unless we stop him. What's his endgame? Varies. Sometimes it's identity theft, sometimes financial manipulation. Twice we suspect he's sold operational information to foreign contacts. But here's the thing, we've never been able to prove anything. He's careful, always leaves himself clean legal exits. After ending the call, Derek sat in his backyard, processing this revelation. Tyler wasn't just a predator who'd seduced his wife. He was a professional operator targeting military families. The affair was business, not passion. Derek's phone chimed with a text from Amy. Dad, I need to talk to you. Can you pick me up from school today? Please don't tell Mom. Interesting. Derek replied, Of course. I'll be there at 3:30. At 1,400 hours, Derek drove to Wilmington High School. Amy was waiting by the flagpole, looking nervously around. At 16, she'd inherited Brianna's beauty, but had Derek's analytical eyes. She climbed into the truck without speaking. Drive somewhere we can talk privately, Amy said. Not home. Derek drove to a park overlooking the Delaware River. Amy was quiet until he parked. Then she turned to face him with tears in her eyes. Dad, I need to tell you something, and I don't know how. Just say it, sweetheart. Mom's been lying to you. About everything. Amy's words came out in a rush. She's been seeing Tyler for months. She told Luke and me that you were becoming dangerous, that we needed to be careful around you. She said Tyler was helping protect us. Derek kept his voice gentle. What changed your mind? Yesterday, after you came home, I heard Tyler on the phone with someone. He was talking about completing the operation and extracting maximum value. Dad, he was talking about our family like we were some kind of mission. Amy pulled out her phone. I recorded part of it. I was scared, so I hid in the upstairs hallway. Derek listened to the audio. Tyler's voice was clear. The target's home early, but we're still on schedule. The wife's completely turned. Kids are mostly compliant. Give me 2 more weeks, and I'll have everything we need. Bank accounts, property deeds, and if there's any classified material in the house, I'll find it. Derek's blood turned to ice. Tyler wasn't just targeting Brianna. He was conducting espionage against a special operations veteran. Amy, I need you to listen carefully. You and Luke might be in danger. Not from me, from Tyler. I need you to trust me and do exactly what I tell you. What kind of danger? Derek made a decision. Amy was 16, mature enough to handle partial truth. Tyler isn't who he claims to be. He's done this before, to other military families. The police are investigating him. Amy's eyes widened. Does Mom know? I don't think so. I think she believes she's in love with him. What are we going to do? Derek studied his daughter's face. She had his steel, his determination. We're going to protect this family. But I need you to act normal around your mother and Tyler. Can you do that? Yes, sir. That evening, Derek played the perfect husband. He grilled steaks while Brianna chatted about her day, helped Luke with homework, watched television with his family. But his mind was working constantly, analyzing angles, developing strategies. At 2,200 hours, after Brianna fell asleep, Derek slipped into his home office. He began drafting what would become Tyler Hoffman's destruction. But this wouldn't be a simple matter of exposing an affair or filing for divorce. Tyler had made this personal when he'd targeted Derek's family as part of a larger operation. Derek opened an encrypted laptop he'd never told Brianna about. Inside were contacts accumulated over 15 years of special operations. Intelligence analysts, cybersecurity experts, former operators now working in the private sector, and a few individuals whose services existed in legal gray areas. He sent 3 messages. First, to Rodriguez. Need complete financial breakdown on Tyler Hoffman. Bank records, property holdings, business transactions. All of it. Second, to a contact in the NSA. Need deep surveillance package on Tyler Hoffman. Phone, internet, travel, everything. Expedite. Third, to a former Delta Force operator named Mitchell Brooks who now ran a private security firm. Need to meet. In person. Tomorrow. Bring your best people. Derek's final task was to access the home security system. 6 months ago, at Tyler's suggestion, Brianna had upgraded to a sophisticated network that included cameras inside and outside the house. What Brianna didn't know was that Derek had insisted on military-grade encryption and his own administrative access. Derek spent 2 hours reviewing 6 months of footage. The evidence was overwhelming. Tyler had been in his house dozens of times, often staying overnight when Derek was deployed. But more damning was footage of Tyler photographing documents in Derek's office, using professional equipment to copy papers Derek thought were secure. One video made Derek's hands shake with rage. It showed Tyler in Luke's bedroom, planting something behind the boy's desk. Derek paused, enhanced the image, and recognized it as a listening device. Tyler had bugged his son's room. Derek closed the laptop and walked to the window overlooking Tyler's house. Lights were on in the living room. Through the blinds, Derek could see 2 figures, Tyler and another man Derek didn't recognize. Derek's phone vibrated with a text from Tyler's phone, intercepted by his monitoring software. The message was to an unknown number. Assets been compromised. Subject shows signs of awareness. Recommend acceleration to final phase. The response came immediately. Authorized. Complete extraction within 72 hours. Clean exit protocols in effect. Derek smiled for the first time in days. Tyler was about to make his move, probably planning to manipulate Brianna into leaving with the children, taking as much money and information as possible. But Tyler had made a fatal error in judgment. He'd assumed Derek was just another simple soldier, another mark to be exploited. Derek Morrison wasn't simple. He was the wolf, and the hunt was about to begin. Chapter 3. The Trap is Set. Derek stood in his kitchen at 0600 hours, coffee in hand, watching Tyler's house through the window. His target's routine was predictable. Morning run at 0630, shower, protein smoothie, then an hour of phone calls before heading to his office. The previous night's surveillance had been illuminating. The unknown man in Tyler's house was Marcus Webb, former military intelligence turned private contractor. Derek's contacts had identified him within 4 hours. Webb specialized in what the intelligence community called social engineering, manipulating targets through personal relationships. Derek's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from Mitchell Brooks. Package assembled. Team standing by. What's the mission? Derek typed back. Full spectrum takedown. Legal, financial, physical, psychological. Target has committed federal crimes against military family. No limits. Roger that, Wolf. Game time. 72 hours. Derek pocketed his phone as Brianna entered the kitchen. She was dressed for her morning yoga class, but Derek noticed the outfit was more revealing than usual. Tight pants, low-cut top. Performance clothes, not exercise clothes. Morning, baby, she said, kissing his cheek. You were restless last night. Bad dreams. Something like that, Derek replied, studying her face. Brianna was an excellent actress, but Derek had been trained to read micro-expressions. The slight tension around her eyes, the forced casualness of her smile. She was nervous about something. I've got yoga, then lunch with the girls. Might be late today. We're thinking of going shopping after. Which girls? Brianna hesitated for a fraction of a second. Just some neighbors. Linda, Sarah, you know. Derek nodded, but he'd already checked her calendar through the phone monitoring. No yoga class was scheduled. No lunch plans. What she did have was a 2 p.m. appointment at First National Bank, an appointment Tyler had made for her. After Brianna left, Derek made his first move. He called Amy's school and Luke's middle school, informing them that both children would be picked up by their father at 2 p.m. for a family emergency. Then he called his ex-partner from Afghanistan, Sergeant Major Tony Ricci, now working private security in D.C. Tony, I need a babysitting job. 2 teenagers, my kids. Safe house situation. How hot is the situation? Federal investigation hot. I need them completely isolated for 72 hours. Consider done. When and where? Derek provided coordinates for a cabin he owned in rural Maryland, purchased under a different name 3 years earlier. Tony would collect Amy and Luke from school, explain that their father was handling a dangerous situation, and keep them safe until Derek gave the all-clear. At 1,100 hours, Derek drove to Tyler's real estate office. Hoffman Properties occupied a sleek glass building in downtown Wilmington. Derek parked across the street and activated surveillance equipment Mitchell's team had provided. Within minutes, Derek was listening to Tyler's phone calls and watching his computer screen through hacked cameras. What he heard confirmed his worst fears. Tyler wasn't just targeting Brianna. He was part of a larger operation targeting at least 6 military families simultaneously. The Morrison asset is ready for harvest, Tyler was saying to someone. Wife's completely compromised, children are manageable, and I've identified 12 classified documents in the subject's home office. What's the classification level? Mix of secret and top secret. Operational details from his last 3 deployments. Worth 7 figures to our buyers. Derek's vision went red. Tyler wasn't just stealing his wife and children. He was selling national security information that could get Derek's former teammates killed. Derek made a call to Rodriguez. Emergency classification. Tyler Hoffman is selling classified materials. I have proof. Jesus, Derek, how solid is your evidence? Recorded conversations, financial transactions, photograph documents. Package incoming in 10 minutes. Derek uploaded everything to a secure server and transmitted it to Rodriguez. Within an hour, federal agents would be preparing arrest warrants. But Derek wasn't waiting for official justice. At 1,400 hours, Derek positioned himself outside First National Bank. His phone displayed the tracking information from Brianna's device. She was inside, accompanied by Tyler. Through the bank's window, Derek could see them sitting with a loan officer. Derek's enhanced listening equipment picked up fragments of the conversation. Tyler was helping Brianna secure a $300,000 home equity loan against their house. She was signing papers that would give her access to cash Derek had spent 15 years earning. But Derek had anticipated this move. That morning, he'd contacted the bank's security director, a former Marine named Dave Santos whom Derek had served with in Iraq. Dave had flagged Brianna's account for fraud investigation, freezing all major transactions pending Derek's approval. Derek watched through the window as the loan officer excused himself, then returned with a concerned expression. Whatever he said made Tyler's face darken and Brianna look confused. They were escorted to a private office where bank security was waiting. Derek's phone rang. Dave Santos, your wife and her boyfriend just tried to forge your signature on a home equity loan, Dave said. We have them in conference room 3. What do you want me to do? Hold them for 30 minutes, then release them. Tell them there was a computer glitch, but the loan can't be processed today. Suggest they return tomorrow. Roger that. Derek drove home and waited. At 1,530 hours, Brianna's BMW pulled into the driveway. Through his hidden cameras, Derek watched Brianna and Tyler enter his house. They went directly to his office. Tyler pulled out professional photography equipment and began systematically documenting every piece of paper in Derek's desk and filing cabinets. He paid particular attention to a red folder marked classified that Derek had deliberately left visible. What Tyler didn't know was that the folder contained false information, operational details Derek had fabricated to look authentic but would actually endanger no one. Every document was bait in an elaborate trap. Derek's phone vibrated with a message to Amy. Phase 1 complete. Are you and Luke safe? Amy replied, yes. Mr. Ricci explained everything. We're at the cabin. Luke's scared but okay. When can we come home? Soon, sweetheart. I'm fixing everything. At 1800 hours, Derek made his entrance. He unlocked the front door and called out, Brianna? I'm home. Tyler had vanished, but Derek could smell his cologne in the office. Brianna emerged from the kitchen, flustered. Derek, you're early again. Thought I'd surprise you. Where are the kids? Amy's at Jessica's. Luke's still at Tyler's. I was just about to start dinner. Derek smiled warmly. Actually, I was thinking we could go out tonight. Just the two of us. It's been too long since we had a real date. Brianna's relief was visible. That sounds wonderful. Let me change clothes. While Brianna prepared for dinner, Derek activated the final phase of his plan. He sent a single message to Rodriguez. Target has taken the bait. Classified materials have been compromised. Request immediate federal response. Then Derek made the call that would change everything. He dialed a number from his encrypted phone, one connected to a contact he'd never thought he'd need to use. This is Colonel Morrison, Derek said when the line connected. I'm calling to report a breach of national security involving stolen classified materials and foreign intelligence operatives. I'm requesting immediate intervention under the Defense Authorization Act. Location, Colonel? Derek provided Tyler's address. Subject is in possession of 12 top-secret documents relating to ongoing operations in Afghanistan. He's preparing to transmit them to unknown foreign contacts within the next 6 hours. Understood, sir. Federal Response Team dispatched. ETA 23 minutes. Derek hung up and straightened his tie. It was time for dinner with his wife, possibly their last meal together as a married couple. But first, Derek opened his laptop and composed an email he'd been mentally drafting for days. The recipient list included Brianna's parents, her sister, Tyler's ex-wife Linda, the Homeowners Association president, and 12 of Brianna's closest friends. The subject line read, The Truth About My Wife and Tyler Hoffman. Derek attached audio recordings, photographs, bank records, and detailed documentation of the 8-month affair. He included evidence of Tyler's criminal background, his pattern of targeting military wives, and his true identity as Tyler Kozlowski. But Derek's final touch was a masterstroke of psychological warfare. He included Tyler's recorded conversations about targeting military families, his dismissive comments about simple soldiers, and his plans to sell classified information to foreign buyers. Derek scheduled the email to send in exactly 4 hours, plenty of time for him and Brianna to enjoy their last dinner together. As Derek drove to the restaurant, he couldn't help but smile. Tyler had been right about one thing. Military guys were straightforward. They identified threats, planned responses, and executed missions with precision. Tyler Hoffman was about to learn what happened when you threatened a special operations veteran's family. The wolf was no longer hunting. The wolf was ready to kill. Chapter 4. The Perfect Storm. Derek chose Romano's Bistro for dinner, the same restaurant where Tyler had taken Brianna 3 days earlier. The irony wasn't lost on him as he watched his wife study the menu in the same booth where she'd planned his betrayal. "This place is lovely," Brianna said, though Derek caught the slight tremor in her voice. "How did you find it?" "Recommendation from a friend," Derek replied, cutting into his steak with surgical precision. "I thought you might have been here before." Brianna's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "No, I don't think so." "Why would you think that?" Derek smiled. "Just a feeling." At 20:30 hours, Derek's phone buzzed with a message from Rodriguez. Federal agents on scene at target location. Subject in custody. Multiple violations confirmed. Derek excused himself to use the restroom, where he opened a message chain from his surveillance software. The feeds from Tyler's house showed FBI agents in tactical gear securing the premises. Tyler was in handcuffs, screaming about his rights, while agents photographed the classified documents spread across his dining room table. Derek returned to find Brianna staring at her phone with a pale face. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Just," Amy texted. "She's staying at Jessica's tonight." The lie came easily, but Derek noticed Brianna's hands shaking slightly. What Brianna had actually seen was a breaking news alert. Federal agents arrest Wilmington real estate developer on espionage charges. Tyler's mugshot filled her phone screen. Derek paid the check and drove home in silence. Brianna kept checking her phone, her anxiety growing with each failed attempt to reach Tyler. Derek could practically hear her mind racing, trying to understand how her careful plans had collapsed. At home, Derek poured himself a whiskey and sat in his living room chair, the same chair where he'd read Tyler's dismissive texts about simple soldiers. Brianna paced by the window, occasionally glancing toward Tyler's house. "Derek," she said finally, "I need to tell you something." "I'm listening." Brianna sat on the couch, her perfect composure finally cracking. "I've made some terrible mistakes. I've been confused, and I've done things I'm not proud of." Derek sipped his whiskey, saying nothing. "Tyler, he's been helping me with some financial planning, but I think he might have been taking advantage of me, using me somehow." Derek almost laughed at the performance. Even facing catastrophe, Brianna was positioning herself as a victim rather than accepting responsibility. "What kind of advantage?" Derek asked. "I don't know exactly, but earlier today, we went to the bank, and there were problems with a loan application." Tyler seemed really upset, like it was more important to him than it should have been. Derek's phone chimed. The scheduled email had sent. Within minutes, Brianna's phone would explode with calls and messages from family and friends who'd just learned the truth about her 8-month affair. "Derek, I think Tyler might have been lying to me about a lot of things. He told me stories about military marriages, about PTSD, about how dangerous some veterans can become. He said he was protecting me and the kids." "Protecting you from what?" Brianna's phone began ringing. Her sister's name appeared on the screen. Brianna stared at it, then let it go to voicemail. Immediately, it rang again. Her mother this time. "You should answer that," Derek said. Brianna declined the call, but her phone continued buzzing with notifications. Text messages were pouring in. Derek watched Brianna's face as she read the first few. "Is this true? How could you do this to Derek? Mom, we need to talk immediately. I can't believe what I just read. Call me now." Brianna looked up at Derek, tears streaming down her face. "What did you do?" "I told the truth," Derek said calmly. "Every word, every photograph, every recorded conversation. Your parents, your sister, your friends, they all know about Tyler now." Brianna's phone rang again. This time was Amy. Answer it, Derek said. Our daughter deserves to talk to her mother. With trembling hands, Brianna accepted the call. Mom. Amy's voice was clear through the speaker. I just got a call from Grandma. She's crying. She says you've been cheating on Dad. Tell me she's wrong. Derek watched Brianna struggle for words. The carefully constructed lies she'd told Amy and Luke were collapsing. Amy, sweetheart, it's complicated. It's not complicated. Amy's voice was angry now. Either you cheated or you didn't. Either you lied to Luke and me about Dad being dangerous, or you didn't. Where are you? Brianna asked desperately. Somewhere safe. Somewhere Dad made sure we'd be protected when your boyfriend's criminal activities caught up with him. Derek took the phone. Amy, I'll call you back in a few minutes. After hanging up, Derek turned to face his wife. Brianna was sobbing, her perfect makeup ruined, her composure completely shattered. 8 months, Derek said quietly. 8 months you've been destroying our family. Derek, please, let me explain. Explain what? How you let a foreign intelligence operative into our home. How you helped him photograph classified documents. How you poisoned our children's minds against their father. Brianna's sobs intensified. I didn't know. Tyler told me he loved me. He said you were becoming dangerous, that the deployments had changed you. He said he was protecting us. And the money, Brianna? The home equity loan? The bank accounts Tyler tried access? Was that protection too? Derek's phone rang. Rodriguez. Derek, we need to talk. Tonight. Tyler's singing like a canary, and some of what he's saying involve your wife. How involved? She's named as a co-conspirator in the document theft. Federal prosecutors want to interview her immediately. Derek looked at Brianna, still sobbing on his couch. I'll bring her in. Derek. 1 hour. Federal building, downtown. Derek hung up and studied his wife. Brianna looked up at him with desperate eyes. What happens now? She whispered. Now you face the consequences of your choices, Derek said. Tyler's been arrested on federal espionage charges. You're named as his accomplice. The FBI wants to interview you tonight. Brianna's face went white. But I didn't know. I never meant for any of this to happen. Derek stood and walked to the window. Tyler's house was dark except for the porch light federal agents had left on. Crime scene tape fluttered in the evening breeze. Get dressed, Derek said without turning around. Professional clothes. You're about to meet federal prosecutors. Derek, please. I know I made mistakes, but I'm still your wife. I'm the mother of your children. Doesn't that mean anything? Derek turned to face her, and Brianna saw something in his eyes that made her step back. The warmth was gone, replaced by the cold calculation of a predator who'd identified his prey. You stopped being my wife the moment you brought a foreign operative into our home, Derek said. You stopped being a mother when you turned our children against me to protect your affair. What you are now is a security threat. Brianna stared at him in horror. What are you saying? I'm saying you have exactly 45 minutes to decide whether you want to cooperate with federal investigators or spend the next 20 years in prison for espionage. Derek checked his watch. Your choice, Brianna, but choose quickly. The FBI doesn't like to be kept waiting. As Brianna stumbled upstairs to change clothes, Derek made one final call of the evening. Mitchell Brooks answered on the first ring. Wolf. Status report. Primary target neutralized. Secondary target in custody. Beginning cleanup phase. What do you need? Full background investigation on my wife's family and associates. I want to know if anyone else was involved in this operation. And Mitchell? I want options. What kind of options? Derek looked toward the stairs where Brianna was frantically getting dressed for her encounter with federal law enforcement. The permanent kind. Chapter 5. Federal Consequences. The federal building in downtown Wilmington was imposing at night, its granite facade lit by harsh security lighting. Derek walked beside Brianna through the metal detectors, noting how she flinched at every sound. Her earlier composure had completely evaporated, replaced by the hollow-eyed shock of someone whose world had collapsed in a matter of hours. Special Agent Jennifer Walsh met them in the lobby. Tall, blonde, with a kind of sharp intelligence that had fast-tracked her through the FBI's counterintelligence division. Walsh had been briefing Derek throughout the day via secure channels. Mrs. Morrison, Walsh said, extending a hand Brianna was too shaken to accept. I'm Special Agent Walsh. Thank you for coming in voluntarily. Derek caught the subtle emphasis on voluntarily, a reminder that Brianna's cooperation was the only thing standing between her and an arrest warrant. They were escorted to interview room C, a sterile space with gray walls, fluorescent lighting, and recording equipment that made Brianna visibly nervous. Derek was permitted to observe through one-way glass while Walsh and her partner, Agent Torres, began their interrogation. Mrs. Morrison, let's start with how you first met Tyler Hoffman, Walsh said, activating the recording equipment. Through the glass, Derek watched his wife struggle to maintain what remained of her dignity. Brianna's account was largely truthful. Tyler had introduced himself as a neighbor 18 months ago, offered to help with household maintenance while Derek was deployed, gradually became a confidant during Derek's absences. When did your relationship with Mr. Hoffman become romantic in nature? Brianna's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. 8 months ago. Derek was leaving for what Tyler said would be a long deployment. Tyler was understanding, supportive. He said he'd been through a difficult divorce and understood how lonely military wives could feel. Derek's jaw tightened. Tyler's manipulation had been textbook. Identify emotional vulnerabilities, position himself as the solution, gradually escalate intimacy while isolating the target from support systems. Mrs. Morrison, did Mr. Hoffman ever ask you about your husband's work? Yes, but I thought he was just making conversation. He said he admired military families, wanted to understand what Derek did. Agent Torres leaned forward. What specifically did you tell him? Just general things. That Derek worked in special operations, that he deployed to dangerous places, that his missions were classified. Brianna paused. Tyler seemed really interested in Derek's schedule, when he'd be home, when he'd be deployed. Did you ever provide Mr. Hoffman with access to your home when your husband was absent? Brianna's face reddened. Yes, he had a key. I thought we were going to build a life together. Derek closed his eyes. His wife had given a foreign operative unrestricted access to their home for 8 months. Mrs. Morrison, we need to discuss the documents found in Mr. Hoffman's possession, Walsh said, sliding a folder across the table. These are classified materials that originated from your husband's home office. Can you explain how Mr. Hoffman might have obtained them? Brianna opened the folder and immediately went pale. The photographs showed Derek's desk, his filing cabinets, classified folders spread across Tyler's dining room table. I don't know, Brianna whispered. I never helped him take anything. I wouldn't even know what was important. But you did provide him with access to your husband's office. He said he was looking for documents related to our mortgage. Tyler was helping me refinance the house as a surprise for Derek. Agent Torres consulted his notes. Mrs. Morrison, bank records show that you attempted to secure a $300,000 home equity loan this afternoon. The loan application lists Tyler Hoffman as a co-borrower and beneficiary. Can you explain this? Derek watched Brianna's world collapse further. She'd been so focused on the romantic fantasy that she'd completely missed the financial manipulation. Tyler said it was just paperwork, she said weakly. He said he needed to be listed for legal reasons, but the money would go into our account. Actually, Mrs. Morrison, the account listed for the loan proceeds belongs to Hoffman Properties, Mr. Hoffman's business. You would have signed over $300,000 in equity to a man you'd known for 18 months. Derek could see Brianna processing this information, understanding for the first time how completely she'd been manipulated. Tyler had never loved her. She'd been a mark from the beginning. The interview continued for 2 hours. Walsh and Torres methodically documented Brianna's relationship with Tyler, her provision of access to Derek's home and office, her attempts to isolate Derek from the children by spreading Tyler's lies about PTSD and dangerous veterans. Finally, Walsh leaned back in her chair. Mrs. Morrison, based on your cooperation tonight and your apparent lack of knowledge regarding Mr. Hoffman's true activities, we're prepared to offer you a deal. Derek straightened, focusing intently on the conversation. You'll testify fully and truthfully against Tyler Hoffman in federal court. You'll submit to polygraph examinations to verify your testimony. You'll provide complete access to all financial records, communications, and any other materials we request. And if I do that, We'll recommend against federal charges being filed against you. However, this doesn't protect you from potential civil liability or other consequences of your actions. Derek smiled grimly. Walsh was keeping her word. No federal charges, but the door was wide open for Derek to pursue other remedies. At 0130 hours, Derek drove exhausted Brianna home through empty streets. She stared out the passenger window, tears occasionally sliding down her cheeks. "What happens to us now?" she asked as Derek pulled into their driveway. "There is no us, Brianna," Derek said calmly. "There's you, and there's the legal process you're about to go through." Derek's phone buzzed with a message from Mitchell Brooks. Phase 2 assets in position. Awaiting authorization. "Derek, I know I made terrible mistakes, but I'm still your wife. We can work through this. We can rebuild." Derek turned to face her with the same cold expression she'd seen earlier. "You don't understand, do you? This isn't about forgiveness or rebuilding. This is about consequences." Derek pulled out his phone and opened the text messages he'd intercepted between Brianna and Tyler over the past 8 months. He selected one from 3 weeks earlier and read it aloud. "Derek seems suspicious lately. Should we accelerate the timeline?" "That's you, Brianna." "Timeline for what?" Brianna said nothing. Derek scrolled to Tyler's response. "For getting you and the kids away from him permanently. I'm worried he might become violent if he finds out about us. Military guys with PTSD can snap without warning." "I thought he was protecting us," Brianna whispered. "Here's your response. I've been planting doubts about Derek with Amy and Luke. They're starting to see him differently. Maybe we should move faster." Derek put his phone away. "You actively worked to turn our children against me, Brianna. You helped a foreign operative steal classified materials that could get American soldiers killed. You attempted to steal $300,000 from our family." Derek got out of the truck and walked around to open Brianna's door, a gesture of mock courtesy that somehow made his words more terrifying. "Tomorrow morning, you'll pack your belongings and leave this house. You'll move in with your parents while your lawyer handles the divorce proceedings. You'll have supervised visitation with Amy and Luke until a court determines whether you're fit to be around them unsupervised. Derek, please. You'll discover that your credit cards have been canceled, your access to our bank accounts has been revoked, and your car loan has been called due for payment in full." Brianna stared at him in shock. "You can't do that." "I've done it. I've also filed a civil lawsuit against you for $2.3 million. The value of the classified information Tyler attempted to sell, plus damages for alienation of affection regarding our children." Derek started walking toward the house. "Oh, and Brianna? Check your phone." Brianna pulled out her device and saw 17 missed calls from her mother, 9 from her sister, and dozens of text messages from friends and neighbors who'd received Derek's email about her affair. "Your sister's coming to pick you up in an hour," Derek said. "I suggest you use the time to pack efficiently." As Derek walked into his house now, he could hear Brianna sobbing in the driveway. But Derek felt nothing. The woman crying behind him had stopped being his wife the moment she'd chosen Tyler Hoffman over her family. Derek's phone rang. "Amy, Dad, is it over?" "The federal part is over, sweetheart. Tyler's in jail, and he's going to stay there for a very long time." "What about Mom?" Derek looked out the window at Brianna, still standing by the truck, her perfect life shattered beyond repair. "Your mother's going to learn that actions have consequences," Derek said. "Some lessons are harder than others." Chapter 6, The Reckoning. Derek stood in his kitchen at 0600 hours, coffee in hand, watching Brianna's sister Rachel load suitcases into her Suburban. Brianna sat in the passenger seat, staring at the house she was leaving forever. Even from a distance, Derek could see the defeat in her posture, shoulders slumped, head down, the confident woman he'd married reduced to a shell. The doorbell rang. Derek opened it to find a process server holding official documents. "Derek Morrison?" "That's me." "Service a process for Brianna Morrison. Divorce petition, child custody filing, and civil lawsuit. She's been notified to expect these." Derek signed for the papers and walked them out to Rachel's SUV. He tapped on the passenger window, and Brianna reluctantly rolled it down. "Your copies," Derek said, handing her the legal documents. "Court date is next Friday." Brianna took the papers with shaking hands. Derek, I know you hate me, but please don't punish the children for my mistakes. Derek studied her face. Even now, facing complete ruin, Brianna was trying to manipulate him. The psychologist's report he'd commissioned had identified classic narcissistic patterns. Everything was always someone else's fault. Every consequence was unfair persecution. The children will be fine, Derek said. They'll live with their father, who never betrayed them. Rachel started the engine. Derek stepped back and watched the SUV pull away, taking Brianna out of his life forever. Derek's phone rang. Mitchell Brooks. Wolf, we've got developments. Tyler's lawyer is pushing for a plea deal. He wants to trade information about his larger network for reduced charges. What kind of information? Names, operational methods, other targets. Apparently, Tyler was part of a 12-man cell targeting military families across the eastern seaboard. Your wife wasn't his first victim. She was number 6. Derek felt rage building in his chest. How many families? 18 confirmed, probably more. Tyler's been doing this for 4 years, always targeting special operations personnel or intelligence officers. The foreign buyers were paying premium prices for classified material. Where's Tyler now? Federal Detention Center, protective custody. His lawyer's scared. Apparently, Tyler owes money to some serious people who funded his operations. If his network thinks he's cooperating, he's a dead man. Derek smiled grimly. Tyler's criminal associates would solve the problem of his testimony more efficiently than any legal maneuvering. Mitchell, I need you to handle the civil side of this operation. What do you have in mind? Brianna's parents co-signed a mortgage on our house. Her sister Rachel guaranteed a loan for Brianna's BMW. I want them to understand the financial consequences of their daughter's choices. You want to bankrupt the entire family? I want them to feel a fraction of what military families felt when Tyler sold their classified information to foreign buyers. Derek provided Mitchell with account numbers, loan documentation, and legal vulnerabilities he'd identified in the Novak family's finances. Within 72 hours, they would face foreclosure notices, loan recalls, and civil lawsuits that would destroy their comfortable middle-class lifestyle. After ending the call, Derek drove to a secure location in rural Delaware where Tony Ricci was maintaining the safe house. Amy and Luke were waiting in the living room, both looking anxious but safe. Dad! Luke ran to him immediately. At 14, he still had the uncomplicated loyalty of childhood, despite Brianna's attempts to poison him against Derek. Amy was more reserved, studying Derek's face. Is Mom okay? Your mother is alive and unharmed, Derek said carefully. She's staying with your Aunt Rachel while we sort out the legal situation. Are you getting divorced? Derek sat on the couch between his children. They deserved honesty, but age-appropriate honesty. Yes, your mother made choices that destroyed our marriage. She had a relationship with Tyler Hoffman that went on for 8 months. During that time, she helped him steal important documents from our house. Luke looked confused. Why would Mom do that? Because Tyler convinced her that I was dangerous, that our family would be better off without me. He lied to her about a lot of things, and she believed him. Amy's eyes hardened. She lied to us too. She told us you were having problems because of the war, that we should be careful around you. Derek felt a flash of anger at Brianna's manipulation of their children, but he kept his voice calm. I'm not perfect, and military life is hard on families. But I never would have hurt you or your mother. What happens now? Amy asked. Now we rebuild our family. Just the 3 of us. Luke looked worried. Will we ever see Mom again? Derek had been dreading this question. In his heart, he wanted to say no. Brianna had forfeited her right to parenthood when she'd used the children as weapons against their father. But courts rarely agreed with such black-and-white thinking. There will probably be supervised visits until a judge decides what's best for you, Derek said. But you'll live with me. Our home, our rules, our family. Amy nodded approvingly, but Luke still looked uncertain. Derek understood. Luke was younger, his memories of Brianna's manipulation less clear than Amy's. Derek's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from Rodriguez, Tyler's network rolling up faster than expected. Federal prosecutors want to meet with you tomorrow. Bring your lawyer. That evening, Derek sat in his home office reviewing financial documents Mitchell's team had compiled. Brianna's betrayal would cost her far more than just their marriage. The civil lawsuit would claim their house, her inheritance money, and her family's assets. The divorce settlement would leave her with minimal support and restricted access to the children. But Derek's masterpiece was the reputational destruction. The email he'd sent to Brianna's social circle had been forwarded dozens of times. Her name was now associated with adultery, federal espionage investigations, and the betrayal of a military family. In their conservative community, she'd become a pariah overnight. Derek's laptop chimed with a video call from Rodriguez. "Derek, we need to discuss Tyler's plea negotiations. He's offering information about 12 other military wives currently involved with his associates." 12. The network is bigger than we thought. Tyler was just one cell. His handler is someone called the Architect, former Russian intelligence, now freelance. He's been running this operation for 6 years. Derek leaned back in his chair. What does Tyler want? Witness protection, reduced sentence, relocation after his testimony. Standard deal for cooperating witnesses. What does he know about ongoing operations? Everything. Names, targets, methods, financial networks. He can roll up the entire East Coast operation. Derek considered this. Tyler's information could protect dozens of military families from the manipulation Brianna had experienced. But it would also mean Tyler might escape the full consequences of his crimes. "Rodriguez, I need to ask you something. Off the record." "Go ahead." "If Tyler were to suffer an accident in federal custody, how hard would prosecutors look for alternative explanations?" Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment. "Derek, don't even think about it. The case against his network is too important to risk with vigilante justice." "I'm not talking about vigilante justice. I'm talking about criminal associates who don't want Tyler cooperating with federal prosecutors." "Derek, Tyler targeted 18 military families. He sold classified information that could have gotten American soldiers killed. He manipulated my wife into betraying her own children. Some crimes deserve ultimate consequences." Derek ended the call and made a different phone number, one that wasn't monitored by federal agencies. "It's Morrison," he said when the line connected. "I need to discuss a problem that requires permanent solution." "What kind of problem?" "The kind that involves threats to American military families and national security. The kind that courts might not handle appropriately." Derek provided Tyler's location, his protective custody arrangements, and the scheduled court appearances. Within 48 hours, Tyler Hoffman would face consequences that no plea deal could mitigate. As Derek prepared for bed in his empty house, he felt no guilt about the arrangements he'd made. Tyler had declared war on American military families. Wars at casualties. Tomorrow, Derek would attend the federal prosecutor's meeting and provide any assistance necessary to protect other military families from Tyler's network. Tonight, Derek slept peacefully for the first time in months. The wolf had protected his pack, eliminated the threat, and restored order to his territory. Justice, Derek had learned, sometimes required methods that courts couldn't provide. Chapter 7. Blood in the Water. Derek stood in the federal courthouse lobby at 0800 hours, wearing his dress blue uniform decorated with 15 years of combat ribbons. The psychological impact was intentional. Prosecutors, defense attorneys, and media representatives would see him as the embodiment of American military service betrayed by domestic enemies. U.S. Attorney Margaret Collins greeted Derek personally, a rare gesture that indicated the importance federal prosecutors placed on his cooperation. At 53, Collins had built her reputation prosecuting national security cases and rarely handled anything less than major federal crimes. "Colonel Morrison, thank you for your service and your cooperation in this investigation," Collins said, shaking Derek's hand with genuine respect. "Your evidence has been instrumental in dismantling what we believe to be the largest espionage network targeting military families in modern American history." They walked through security to a conference room where Derek was introduced to the full prosecution team. 6 attorneys, 3 FBI agents, 2 NSA liaisons, and a representative from military intelligence. The scope of the investigation had expanded far beyond Tyler Hoffman. "Colonel, we need to discuss some developments that occurred overnight," Collins said, her expression grave. Derek maintained perfect composure, though he suspected what was coming. Agent Walsh opened a folder. At approximately 0347 hours this morning, Tyler Hoffman was found dead in his cell at the Federal Detention Center. Initial examination suggests cardiac arrest, but we're conducting a full investigation. Derek's expression showed appropriate surprise and concern. That's unfortunate. I assume this complicates your case against his network. Actually, it doesn't, Collins said. Before his death, Tyler provided us with extensive information about his organization. More importantly, we've identified the architect, the man running the entire operation. Collins slid a photograph across the table. Derek studied the face, a thin man in his 50s with cold gray eyes and Slavic features. Viktor Petrov, former GRU intelligence officer. He's been operating in the United States since 2018, specifically targeting military communities. Tyler's network was just one of 4 cells Petrov has been running simultaneously. Agent Walsh leaned forward. Colonel, we need to discuss the possibility that you and your family might still be targets. Petrov doesn't like loose ends, and your cooperation with this investigation makes you a threat to his remaining operations. Derek considered this. What kind of protection are you offering? Relocation, new identities, federal marshals protection for you and your children. It would be temporary, just until we can locate and arrest Petrov. That won't be necessary, Derek said calmly. Collins looked surprised. Colonel, we're talking about a highly trained foreign intelligence operative with a network of assets and significant financial resources. The threat is real. Derek smiled with the confidence of a man who'd spent 15 years hunting more dangerous prey than Viktor Petrov. Ma'am, with respect, I'm not the one who should be afraid. The meeting continued for 3 hours. Derek provided detailed testimony about Tyler's infiltration of his family, Brianna's cooperation with the intelligence operation, and the classified materials that had been compromised. His testimony would be crucial in prosecuting any remaining network members. But Derek's mind was already moving beyond legal proceedings. Viktor Petrov had made the fatal error of targeting Derek's family. The Russian would learn the difference between manipulating vulnerable military wives and confronting a special operations veteran who decided to hunt. After the meeting, Derek drove directly to a secure location in Baltimore where Mitchell Brooks maintained his operational headquarters. The building looked like a typical corporate office, but Derek knew it housed one of the most sophisticated private intelligence operations on the East Coast. Mitchell greeted Derek in a conference room equipped with electronic countermeasures and secure communications equipment. Also present were 3 men Derek recognized as former special operations personnel, the kind of professionals who transitioned from military service to more profitable applications of their skills. Wolf, Mitchell said, we've been tracking your Russian friend since his name surfaced in the federal investigation. He's not as invisible as he thinks. Derek studied the surveillance photographs spread across the table. Viktor Petrov had been living in Richmond, Virginia, operating a consulting firm that served as cover for his intelligence activities. More interesting were the photographs of his associates, 6 men who appear to be former Eastern European military or intelligence personnel. What's his current status? Derek asked. Nervous. Tyler's death has him spooked, and he knows federal agents are closing in. Our sources indicate he's planning to extract his remaining assets and disappear within 72 hours. Derek examined blueprints of Petrov's office building and residential compound. The Russian had chosen his locations well: multiple escape routes, excellent sight lines, sophisticated security systems. Mitchell, I need to send a message that goes beyond what courts can deliver. What kind of message? Derek looked up from the photographs. The kind that ensures no foreign operative ever targets American military families again. Mitchell nodded slowly. What's the timeline? Tonight, before Petrov can escape or eliminate witnesses. Derek spent the afternoon preparing equipment and reviewing intelligence. Petrov's compound in Richmond was isolated, protected by electronic surveillance and armed personnel. A direct assault would be costly and might allow the target to escape. But Derek had learned patience during his years hunting insurgents in Afghanistan. Sometimes the best way to kill a target was to let the target come to you. Derek made a single phone call to a number that would be traced to Viktor Petrov's network within hours. "This is Colonel Derek Morrison," he said when the line connected. "I have information Viktor Petrov needs to hear. Information about Tyler Hoffman's cooperation with federal investigators and what I told them about remaining network assets." Derek provided an address, an abandoned warehouse in an industrial area of Richmond where he'd conducted business with Mitchell's team before. The location was isolated, easily surveilled, with multiple approach routes that could be monitored. "Tell Petrov I'll be there at 2,200 hours. Come alone, or don't come at all." Derek hung up, knowing that Petrov would never come alone, but would be unable to resist the opportunity to eliminate the primary threat to his operation. At 1,900 hours, Derek and Mitchell's team took positions around the warehouse. Derek carried the weapons and equipment that had kept him alive through 5 combat deployments: M4 carbine, sidearm, night vision equipment, and enough explosives to level the building if necessary. At 2,130 hours, electronic surveillance detected 3 vehicles approaching the warehouse from different directions. Derek smiled grimly. Petrov was bringing at least 12 men to kill 1 American soldier. The Russian had no idea who he was hunting. Derek activated his communication system. "Wolf to all stations. Hostiles inbound. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. No survivors." Derek had spent 15 years protecting American military families from foreign enemies. Tonight, he would ensure that Viktor Petrov's network could never threaten another family. The wolf was hunting again, and this time, the prey would never see him coming. Chapter 8: The Kill. Derek moved through the warehouse with the fluid precision of a predator in his element. Night vision equipment turned the darkness into green-tinted clarity, revealing every shadow, every potential angle of attack. Behind him, Mitchell's team had taken overwatch positions on the warehouse's upper level, providing covering fire for whatever came next. Through his earpiece, Derek heard the soft updates from his team. "Contact 1. 4 hostiles, east entrance. Contact 2. 3 hostiles, north approach. Contact 3. 5 hostiles, west perimeter. Target Petrov confirmed." Derek smiled coldly. 12 men against 4. Under normal circumstances, those odds would favor the larger force. But these weren't normal circumstances. The men outside were intelligence operatives and hired muscle, accustomed to intimidation and assassination. Derek and his team were combat veterans who'd spent years hunting terrorists in their own territory. Derek keyed his microphone. "Wolf to all stations. Initiate." The warehouse erupted in control violence. Mitchell's team engaged targets with precision rifle fire, while Derek moved toward the primary objective, Viktor Petrov himself. The Russian had made his first tactical error by entering the warehouse personally, driven by the arrogance that had sustained his network for 6 years. Derek heard Petrov's voice echoing through the warehouse, accented English issuing orders to his remaining men. The Russian was trying to establish fields of fire and coordinate an assault on Derek's position. But Petrov was thinking like an intelligence operative, not a special operations veteran. Derek activated the warehouse's automated fire suppression system, flooding the building with chemical retardant that reduced visibility and made breathing difficult for anyone without proper equipment. Through his sealed mask and night vision, Derek could see clearly while Petrov's men stumbled blindly through toxic fog. 2 of Petrov's operatives rounded a corner directly into Derek's position. The first man died instantly from a suppressed rifle shot to the head. The second managed to raise his weapon before Derek's knife opened his throat. Neither man had time to alert their teammates. Derek moved deeper into the warehouse, following the sound of Petrov's voice. The Russian was shouting instructions to his remaining men, unaware that his numerical advantage was disappearing with each minute. Through his earpiece, Derek heard Mitchell's situation reports. Contact 1 neutralized. 4 hostiles down. Contact 2 secured. 3 hostiles eliminated. Contact 3 in progress. 2 hostiles remaining plus primary target. Derek found Petrov in the warehouse's administrative office, crouched behind a desk with two surviving operatives. The Russian was talking frantically on a satellite phone, probably calling for extraction or additional support. Derek grenaded the office door, using the explosion to mask his entry. In the chaos that followed, he eliminated both operatives with precise headshots before turning his attention to the primary target. Viktor Petrov lay on his back, wounded but alive, staring up at Derek with a mixture of fear and professional respect. Blood seeped from shrapnel wounds, but the Russian's injuries weren't immediately fatal. "Colonel Morrison," Petrov said in heavily accented English, "I underestimated you." Derek removed his helmet and night vision equipment, wanting Petrov to see his face clearly. "You targeted my family. That was your mistake. Your wife was willing participant. Your children believed everything we told them about dangerous military father." Derek's expression didn't change, but something cold settled in his eyes. "Tell me about the other families you've destroyed." Petrov smiled weakly. 18 successful operations. Millions of dollars in classified information sold to buyers in China, Russia, Iran. Your family was just business, nothing personal. It became personal when you involved my children. Derek pulled out his sidearm and checked the chamber. "How many more operatives does your network have? You think killing me solves problem? There are others. More networks, more targets. Military families will always be vulnerable because they trust too easily. Maybe, but they won't be vulnerable to you." Derek shot Petrov twice in the chest, then once in the head. The Russian died instantly, his satellite phone still clutched in his hand. Derek searched the office, recovering encrypted communication devices, financial records, and operational plans that would help federal investigators dismantle any remaining network assets. But his primary objective was complete. Viktor Petrov would never threaten another American family. Mitchell's voice crackled through the earpiece. "Wolf, area secure. All hostiles neutralized. We need to exfiltrate in 15 minutes." Derek spent 10 minutes rigging the warehouse with incendiary devices that would destroy any forensic evidence of their presence. When the building burned, investigators would find the bodies of foreign operatives who died in a confrontation with each other, a common occurrence when criminal organizations imploded. As Derek and Mitchell's team withdrew from the area, Derek felt the satisfaction of a mission completed successfully. Viktor Petrov's network was broken, Tyler Hoffman was dead, and any remaining foreign operatives would think twice before targeting American military families. But Derek's work wasn't finished. He still had domestic enemies to address. Derek's phone buzzed with a message from Rodriguez. "Federal prosecutors want to debrief you tomorrow. Tyler's death is being investigated as a homicide." Derek typed back, "Available at 0900. Full cooperation." Derek knew the federal investigation into Tyler's death would find nothing connecting him to the incident. Tyler had died of an apparent heart attack brought on by a previously undiagnosed cardiac condition, a condition that sophisticated toxins could trigger while leaving no detectable trace. More importantly, Tyler's death had eliminated a security risk while sending a clear message to any remaining network operatives. Some betrayals carried ultimate consequences. As Derek drove back to Delaware, he thought about the conversation he'd have with Amy and Luke tomorrow. His children deserved to know that the threat to their family had been permanently eliminated. They also needed to understand that their father had done whatever was necessary to protect them. Derek's phone rang. "Amy, Dad, I saw the news about that Russian man who was arrested. The reporter said he was connected to Tyler. Where did you see this?" "Online. It said federal agents raided his office in Richmond and found evidence of espionage against military families." Derek smiled. The cover story was already taking shape in the media. A successful federal investigation that had dismantled a foreign intelligence network. No mention of the warehouse incident or the 12 bodies that would never be found. "The important thing is that the threat to our family is over," Derek said. "You and Luke are safe now. What about Mom?" Derek considered his answer carefully. Brianna's betrayal had been devastating, but she'd been a victim of manipulation as much as a willing participant. She would face legal consequences and social ostracism, but she didn't deserve death. Your mother will face the consequences of her choices through the court system. That's how it should be. Do you think she really loved Tyler? Or was she just being used? Derek thought about the recorded conversations he'd intercepted, the evidence of Brianna's manipulation and Tyler's calculated seduction. The truth was complicated. Brianna had been genuinely attracted to Tyler's attention and lifestyle, but Tyler had never felt anything genuine for her. I think your mother was lonely and made poor decisions that Tyler exploited for his own purposes, Derek said finally. She's not evil, Amy. She's just weak. Are you going to forgive her? Derek stared through the windshield at the highway, stretching toward home. Forgiveness was a luxury he couldn't afford. Not for Brianna, not for Tyler, not for anyone who'd threatened his family. Forgiveness isn't always possible, Derek said. Sometimes the best you can do is move forward and protect the people who matter most. Derek would protect Amy and Luke for the rest of his life. He would ensure they had every opportunity to build successful, secure futures. He would teach them to be strong, to make good decisions, to trust carefully. But he would never forgive the betrayal that had nearly destroyed their family. Some wounds were too deep, some violations too fundamental. The wolf protected his pack. Everything else was secondary. Chapter 9. The New Pack. 3 months later, Derek stood in the kitchen of his renovated home, watching Amy and Luke eat breakfast before school. The house felt different now, warmer, more secure, with the toxic presence of betrayal finally eliminated. Security upgrades had turned their home into a fortress that could withstand any future threats. Amy looked up from her cereal. Dad, I got accepted to Georgetown. Early admission to their international relations program. Derek felt genuine pride swell in his chest. That's outstanding, sweetheart. Full scholarship, academic and ROTC. They want me for their officer candidate program. Derek nodded approvingly. Amy had inherited his strategic mind and leadership potential. She would make an excellent officer, assuming she chose that path. Luke was reading from his tablet. Dad, there's an article here about Mom's trial. It says she got probation and community service. Derek had followed Brianna's legal proceedings with professional interest. She'd pleaded guilty to minor charges related to her cooperation with Tyler's operation, received a suspended sentence, and been ordered to perform 500 hours of community service. The judge had been lenient, recognizing her status as a victim of manipulation. How do you feel about that? Derek asked Luke. I guess it's fair. She didn't really know what Tyler was doing. Luke paused. Do you think we'll ever see her again? Derek considered his answer carefully. 3 months of therapy had helped both children process their mother's betrayal and their father's necessary response. Amy had adapted quickly, her analytical mind accepting the harsh realities of adult consequences. Luke remained more conflicted, struggling with loyalty to a mother who'd failed to protect him. That's your choice to make when you're 18, Derek said. Right now, you're still healing from what she put you through. Derek's phone buzzed with a message from Rodriguez. Court-martial proceedings for the rest of Petrov's network included. 12 operatives convicted, network officially dismantled. Mission complete. Derek deleted the message and poured another cup of coffee. The federal investigation had been remarkably successful, rolling up foreign intelligence operatives across 3 states. The cover story had held perfectly. Viktor Petrov and his associates had died in an internal power struggle, their bodies discovered in a burned warehouse where they'd apparently killed each other. No one questioned the convenient elimination of a foreign espionage network that had posed significant threats to national security. Derek's doorbell rang. Through the security monitor, he saw a familiar figure, his former commanding officer, Colonel Patricia Hayes, now assigned to Pentagon operations. Derek opened the door to find Hayes in dress uniform, her expression unreadable. Derek, may I come in? Derek led Hayes to his office and closed the door. She refused his offer of coffee and sat across from his desk with military formality. Derek, I'm here on behalf of the Secretary of Defense. Your actions over the past 3 months have not gone unnoticed. Derek maintained neutral expression. I'm not sure what you mean, ma'am. Hayes smiled grimly. The Petrov network represented a significant threat to military families across the eastern seaboard. Their elimination was convenient for national security interests. I understand federal prosecutors handled that investigation very effectively. Indeed, almost too effectively. Hayes leaned forward. Derek, the Pentagon has a proposition for you. Derek waited. We're forming a new unit within Special Operations Command. Domestic threat assessment and elimination. The kind of threats that traditional law enforcement can't always handle appropriately. What kind of threats? Foreign intelligence operations targeting military personnel. Domestic terrorists planning attacks on military installations. Criminal organizations that pose national security risks. Hayes paused. The kind of targets that require unconventional solutions. Derek understood immediately. The Pentagon wanted to weaponize his skills against enemies who operated within legal gray areas, threats that courts couldn't adequately address. What will my role be? Team leader. Handpick your own operators. Unlimited resources. Operations that officially never happened. Derek considered the offer. For 15 years, he'd operated within legal and military constraints that sometimes prevented optimal solutions. This new position would remove those limitations. I have conditions, Derek said. Name them. My children's security is non-negotiable. Any threat to Amy or Luke results in immediate and permanent elimination. Hayes nodded. Understood. I choose my own targets and methods. No oversight from people who've never conducted actual operations. Agreed. And I want Mitchell Brooks and his team officially transferred to my command. They've proven their effectiveness. Hayes stood and extended her hand. Welcome to the Shadow Regiment, Colonel Morrison. Your first briefing is Monday. After Hayes left, Derek sat in his office contemplating this new phase of his career. The betrayal that had nearly destroyed his family had ultimately led to opportunities he'd never imagined. He would now hunt domestic enemies with the full backing of the Pentagon, protecting military families from threats they'd never see coming. Derek's phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. Heard about your new assignment. Congratulations. Some of us remember what you did to protect your family. Respect. Ghost. Derek smiled. Word was already spreading through the special operations community about his recruitment to the Shadow Regiment. Former teammates who'd heard whispers about Tyler Hoffman's death and Viktor Petrov's elimination understood the message Derek had sent. Military families were under his protection now. Foreign operatives, domestic terrorists, and criminal organizations that threatened American service members would face consequences that courts couldn't deliver. That evening, Derek grilled steaks while Amy and Luke did homework at the patio table. The spring air carried the scent of cherry blossoms from trees Derek had planted after Brianna's departure, new growth replacing what had been corrupted. Dad, Luke said, looking up from his math homework, do you ever miss Mom? Derek considered the question honestly. I miss the woman I thought she was. I don't miss the person she actually turned out to be. Amy set down her pen. Do you think you'll ever get married again? Maybe someday. If I find someone who values loyalty as much as I do. Derek's phone buzzed with a message from Mitchell. Shadow Regiment headquarters completed. Ready for your inspection tomorrow. Derek looked at his children. Amy focused on college applications. Luke working through algebra problems. Both of them safe and thriving despite the trauma they'd endured. They'd emerged stronger from their mother's betrayal, more resilient and realistic about human nature. Kids, Derek said, I want you to know that no matter what happens in the future, you'll always be my priority. Anyone who threatens this family will face consequences they can't imagine. Amy met his eyes with understanding. She'd inherited his protective instincts and analytical mind. We know, Dad, and we'll never give you reason to question our loyalty. Luke nodded earnestly. This is our pact now, the three of us. Derek smiled with genuine warmth. His children understood what Brianna had never grasped. That loyalty was earned through consistency, protected through strength, and maintained through absolute commitment to family. The wolf had rebuilt his pack. Now he would protect all military families with the same deadly efficiency he'd used to eliminate the threats to his own. Some men forgave betrayal and moved on. Derek Morrison hunted betrayers until they stopped breathing. The difference had kept his family alive and would now keep America's military families safe from enemies they'd never see coming. In the end, the wolf always protected the pack. Everything else was just prey. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.